In this video, I want to talk about what to do if you owe money on your truck and you want to get out of it and get into a newer truck. So you have a few options. Number one would be to go ahead and go to the used car lot or to the new dealership and go ahead and trade the vehicle in. If you do that, they'll take you over to the used car lot side of things. They'll come out, do a quick once around your vehicle, quick on the spot appraisal, and they'll give you a price right then and there for the trade-in value of the vehicle. And that's quick and easy, and they'll hopefully get you out of it and into a new vehicle right away. But the problem that a lot of people run into is that they end up owing a lot more money on the vehicle that they are turning in than they can get for what they owe. So they're essentially in the hole on the vehicle a lot of times. So you can't get enough to pay off the loan that you already have, that you've been making payments on time, yet the trade-in's not high enough for you to get into a new vehicle. And they can't really do anything for you except maybe roll your payments into the next vehicle and somehow take what you owe, put it into the debt onto the next vehicle, so that you essentially take on more debt moving forward. The problem with doing that is obvious. You get further and further in debt, and you get more and more in the hole, and then you come around to the next trade-in and you're really in the hole. So it can just be a downward spiral. I ran into this situation when I bought this truck. The truck that I was turning in was a good amount of money less. It had a good amount of money owed on it compared to what I could have gotten on trade-in for it. And I would have had to take a hit for about $6,000 on the trade-in at the dealership for that truck. And I just wasn't really willing to do that. So I either had to stick with that truck for a little longer and pay it down more, or pay it off, or I would have had to have the money to pay off the extra amount of money owed and go ahead and trade it in, or roll in the debt into the next loan, which I really wasn't willing to do. I didn't want to roll the debt to the next loan. So, and the third option would have been to go ahead and do a private sale. So doing a private sale on a vehicle worth like $25,000 is a little bit intimidating, because you're dealing with a lot more money, and it's just not necessarily safe to have that much money, that big of a transaction. You're not used to doing that big of a transaction on a regular basis. You're talking 25, 30, 40, whatever the number is, $1,000. You don't know if somebody's going to try to scam you with that kind of money. You don't know if the potential buyers think that you're trying to scam them, because most of the time when someone's spending that kind of money, they're going to a dealership to spend that kind of money. And a lot of times people feel a lot more comfortable spending those large sums of money at a reputable business like a dealership, or something of that nature, because there's more people involved, there's witnesses. If someone just shows up to your house with 30 grand cash or whatever, things could go wrong. Something could happen. It could be a scam. The vehicle could be not a good vehicle, something where the engine's going to blow up, and the engine's going to blow up on them, or something's wrong with the vehicle and they're just trying to unload it, and there's no accountability. Say if you're unloading the vehicle and you know that transmission is going to burn out in 2 months, and you put some kind of a slick snake oil in the transmission to get it by for a little bit, and every 100 startups it's going to slip real bad, and it's probably not going to do it when they're looking at it or test driving it, but eventually they'll do it, and later down the road the transmission is going to definitely have a failure. Things like that happen, and people have these fears that someone could potentially rip them off. So that is some of the challenges with doing a private sale, and that's why doing private selling on expensive vehicles is a little bit more challenging. Now, private sales are easier when the vehicle is like $1,000 or $2,500 or even $4,000. But when you're talking five, six, or $26,000, you're talking a lot more intimidation. So what I essentially did is I went ahead and did the private sale. And what I did is I went online and got with one of those companies similar to like LegalZoom. It wasn't LegalZoom, but it was a very similar situation where they pretty much drop a bill of sale or agreement, and they'll charge you some money. I think I used something called like DocuSign or something like that. They charge you, say, $50 or whatever, and they will give you a template where it lets you fill in information. Say you're selling a vehicle, they have a template for selling vehicles, and they let you fill in information. And essentially what I did is had a few people come and look at the vehicle, and I was 100% honest with everything on the vehicle when I had them look at it. And I didn't know if I would be able to find a buyer or not. I just let a few people look at it. One thing that really helps when you're selling a vehicle is to be somewhat close on the money you owe. You don't want to be in the hole if you're selling to an individual. You don't want to be in the hole on the loan versus the value of the vehicle. If you owe more than the vehicle is worth, then you absolutely have to pay down that amount before you can even consider private selling that vehicle. Whereas trade-ins, they have so much profit margin in play that a lot of times, even though you've made your payments on time, you're still going to be in the hole on that vehicle. In order to not be in a hole on a vehicle, you probably have to be paying more than what your payments are. Now, for trucks, they hold value really well. So chances are a truck is going to hold its value. And if you make your payments on time on the finance, generally you'll be able to private sell a truck and get out of the hole. A 4x4, 4-door, whatever pickup truck. Pickup trucks in general just hold value better than cars. But if you got a car and it's not a rare vehicle, there's a possibility that that car could be in the hole and not worth what's owed on it. So that's just something to consider before you start. Make sure the value of the vehicle is more than what you owe. In my situation, it was a truck. It had some bumps and bruises on it, but it was a 4x4 snow plowing truck. So it was worth more than what I owed on the truck. So and all I've ever done was made the payments on time. I never really paid anything extra. So I believe I sold the truck and the plow together for like 25 grand. And like I said, I went on that one of those websites where they generate documents for you. They generate contracts for you. And they generated a bill of sale type of contract for me. And I got with Ford Credit. Now, dealing with Ford Credit was a challenge because they are a little bit complicated to do a lien release to the new buyer. So it was a little bit complicated, but just because there's debt on the vehicle, that doesn't mean that you can't sell it. It almost makes it a little bit easier because now the potential buyer writes the check to the lien holder instead of you, and there's less fear that you're going to steal the money. Because if someone's writing you a personal check because you've paid off the vehicle, then there's kind of a little bit of fear that that person can disappear with that personal check and deposit it, and then keep the vehicle as well. Dealing with the lien holder, there's more parties involved, and it's a little bit harder to scam in that way. And also too, selling a vehicle for 25 grand, chances are the buyer for the vehicle is going to take out a loan to pay for the vehicle. So in my situation, the buyer didn't just bring cash, he actually took out a loan from his credit union, and he purchased the vehicle using his loan and presenting me with the check. So just because the vehicle is worth so much money, it's not necessarily intimidating or dangerous or anything like that to do that transaction yourself, because potentially the buyer can get a loan on a used vehicle from a private individual, It's totally possible, and it happens all the time. But like I say, go ahead and don't be afraid of the amount of money. After the loan was all set up, he presented me with the check. But if the individual was to present me with cash, what I would do in that situation is go to the bank and have the tellers handle all the cash. Because if I'm trying to count out, like, say, $25,000 or $30,000, and he's got some hundreds and some 50s and some 20s, chances are I'm going to mess up that count. So in that situation, I would let someone who's used to handling money and used to counting money a lot to handle that much cash. And it's totally possible for me to mess up the count, or for that person to feel uncomfortable with that much money when it's just them and me and there's no witnesses or anything like that. So it's better to just handle the transaction like that at a bank with their teller. And if there's a lien, well, if you owe money, there's a lien. So the best situation would be to handle that kind of transaction at the bank that holds the lien. That way they could release the lien, they could handle the money, and there's witnesses there to make everybody feel a little bit more comfortable. In my situation, Ford Credit is a remote bank, and there's no actual branch that you can go to. So I just had to build the trust with the potential buyer that I wasn't running a scam or anything, and that I wasn't going to just have them pay off the truck and pay off the loan for credit and then keep their money and keep the truck. So I communicated with them. I talked with them and Ford Credit all at once, and let Ford Credit know what was going on. They sent a certified check to Ford Credit. The debt was paid off, and I presented them with the vehicle. And at the time when they first looked at the vehicle, they actually put down a $500 deposit. The buyer at the time when I sold my old F-250 was actually willing to put down $5,000 deposit. But, you know, with that much money, it was better if he just put down $500, because that's less pressure and less risk. You know, if something were to go wrong, what if something happened to me and I couldn't respond to them for a week, or what if something happened to them and whatever, what have you, things happen. I don't want to have $5,000 of someone else's money floating around when I don't have to. So I accepted $500 instead of a $5,000 deposit. And to me, I felt more comfortable doing that than taking a larger sum of money. So definitely don't be afraid to do a private sale. It's not that hard. If I can do it, you can do it. And, you know, trading in, I was looking at getting, honestly, I think they quoted me like $15,000 for a truck that I ended up private selling for $25,000. So it was definitely worth it. Now I understand these dealerships have to keep their doors open, and they got these big brick and mortar stores and parking lots to take care of, tons of maintenance, lawns to maintain. So they have to charge these numbers in order to stay relevant and to make proper profit margins. I'm in business too, so I understand that you have to charge enough to take care of your property and your employees and everything. So they're doing what you would expect them to do. So they're not really cheating you or stealing from you in any way. They're just providing a service. They have the capital, I would imagine, to buy these vehicles off of you and get you out of your loans quickly if you can accept their markup. And there is work involved in doing a private sale, and there's risk involved. So if you were to go to a dealership and do a trade-in and take a $10,000 hit or a $5,000 hit, whatever the hit would be, they are saving you a significant amount of time. You don't have to email back and forth and be, you know, you don't have to put yourself out there and do, you know, this kind of a transaction. Me having done some amount of transactions in business, you know, doing jobs for, you know, thousands of dollars here and there, doing different contracts for snow plowing and things like that, I was a little bit more confident maybe than the average guy. So I wasn't too terribly intimidated about it, but I wasn't necessarily happy about having to do that much work. I kind of wish that I could just trade it in, but the reality is when I go to sell this truck or any truck, I'm probably going to have to do a private sale just because it's just not worth for me to take that kind of hit. And they do provide a service. Trading in is not the worst thing to do in the world, but also don't be afraid to do a private sale. You can do it. You just got to put yourself out there, be willing to be professional and do a good transaction. Trucks help. Having a truck helps sell the truck because trucks hold value. Certain vehicles hold value better than others. Jeeps are really good. I think Subarus are really good, but some cars don't hold their value as good. So you just got to be aware of that. Make sure that the value that is owed, the value that the vehicle is more than what's owed on the vehicle. And it's possible to get out of vehicles. So anyway, don't be afraid to private sale. Thank you for watching the video. Comment below. Let me know what you think about this video. And have you ever private sold a vehicle? Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Just looking at my truck and got a lot of hail damage here. Story of my life. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day and hope to hear from you soon. Bye.